Hey guys, thanks so much for the podcast. The new book has really been a game changer for our little neurodivergent family. We have a gorgeous little family consisting of a 10-year-old son with autistic and ADHD PDA, autistic father working in health, and I'm an ADHD midwife mum. In the past, our son has struggled to go to school, and we've had periods of up to a year and a half in complete burnout. He's struggled making friends, and we've battled with school refusal. He's a gorgeous, smart, funny, delightful kid. We've managed to go back to school since the start of the year, and just recently we've started to see our son's emotional wheels start to wobble. We started taking Mondays off to try and avoid burnout, which seems to help him. Yesterday, we were ready for school in our school uniform, and our son had a massive anxiety attack on leaving the house. We managed to convince him to get into the car, as I could see he was trying to avoid school. He was pretty upset, repeating the word inside over and over. And then thought of you guys and the last episode when we were talking about avoidance. Sorry, I've buggered that up. And then thought of you guys and the last podcast when we were talking about avoidance. And so rather than going back to the house, we put the dog in the car and drove to our local nature strip by the river and reassured our son that he didn't have to go to school, but we were going to walk the dog in an attempt to try and calm down. This seemed to help. And my question is, would it have been better to just go inside to calm down in that instant before we left the driveway? Or is it best to make small steps towards a goal of school without pressure of actually getting to school? I notice in myself that I'll avoid people and situations, and I'm realising this has been a coping mechanism for myself, as my parents weren't very hands-on when I was a kid. I want to also thank you. We've been able to talk about our anxieties and feelings around different topics as a family, and as a couple before we are in crisis. I've been able to recommend your podcast and book to 2 other families who are still struggling. Sometimes being a neurodivergent family can be super isolating. I can see that the kids at my son's school aren't inclusive. I can also see that we are all he has. I can also see that we are all that he has, and it's a long day at school, feeling alone. And so I can understand him wanting to stay home. The only problem with staying at home with school avoidance is that I'd have to have extended time off work, and I feel like I'm hanging on to my registration. The good thing is that our son is super smart and can teach himself most things via YouTube. Anyway, thank you again for all that you do, and keep going. You never know how far your good work reaches. I'm definitely not one to write in with an email, but last week's episode felt like the right time, and it was absolutely amazing resource for us to weather the current storm.
Yeah, I was really proud that one came through to us. Yeah. I'm really proud that, neurodiverse families feel like this resource can be helpful, and, that God, the Blade Runner one, I was so nervous that I was going to stuff that up, but yeah, it's beautiful. I loved that example of so we got in the car and took the dog for a walk, and it's great because a lot of everything she said about, vulnerabilities and inclusion and all that stuff, I've said all that before and I'll keep saying it. But the beautiful thing about this is often we get stuck in a binary idea of kids who are struggling with something like school refusal, where we're you have to do it, bad luck. You got to go to school. You got to learn how to ride the bike. You got to learn how to swim. Or it really stresses you out, so we won't go swimming. You don't have to go to school. We'll avoid that thing. The middle pathway is the path. It's, we understand that, we acknowledge it, we validate it, we build your skills to manage that anxiety with that so that you go back gently, gradually, successfully. That's the middle path. With every kid I've met in clinic that we've figured that out with, should be hundreds and hundreds of them, it's that middle path. It's not a binary choice. And that's what this parent's done beautifully, has said going back feels like a step back. Literally and figuratively. It's too much to go to school. Let's still step forward and do something that's going to feel good and succeed, and will take us one step closer to that step into school when we struggle like this. it's just a really important point, and that's why I really like that one. This podcast is brought to you by Guiding Growing Minds, a social enterprise that aims to give all children the best opportunity to reach their potential and succeed in living rich and meaningful lives.